The private wealth industry has undergone increasing scrutiny. How has KPMG adapted?
Well, different parts of the financial services industry have had to respond in different ways to their own challenges. For us as an accounting firm, and in particular a tax practice specialising in private client, it's really about our tax principles. And it's really about how we give tax advice which is acceptable to our clients because it's effective and correct, but also to our community and the wider world.
The biggest challenge the industry faces today is regulation. The burden of regulation has changed out of all recognition since the financial crisis in 2008 and 9. And then after that, it's the digital age that we're entering into, making sure we're up to date with what's going on and making sure we can communicate to our clients in the way they want to be communicated to. At its simplest, when you look at fees, we give a complete breakdown of all our fees to clients. There are no hidden charges. And one of the things clients hate most is suddenly having surprises presented to them and automatically deducted from their portfolios.
Over the past 5 years, I would say we've done 4 key things in compliance to make sure that we're ahead of the curve. Firstly, we've invested in a number of new people. So we've recently hired a COO and we have an in-house general counsel. And they're both very much focused on compliance and on the processes and procedures around compliance. Secondly, we have worked on our IT platform. So we have invested a considerable amount of money on our IT systems dedicated to making sure that our clients are adhering to all the compliance requirements, as well as following up on KYC or any checks that we need to do on our clients. Thirdly, we have broadened our relationships with law firms, compliance consultants, and anyone that we think is relevant to help us to make sure that we are adhering to our compliance requirements. And then finally, we have invested in broadening our permissions in compliance. So now we're not only FCA regulated, which is required for the UK, but we're also SEC regulated, which means that we're allowed to offer our advice to American clients or European clients that fall into the US regulatory environment.
What's your view on the Panama Papers? Are they a storm in a teacup?
I don't think they could be described as a storm in a teacup given the reaction that the media has given to it and the reaction that politicians have to see our Prime Minister for the first time in history disclose intimate details of his own personal tax affairs is hardly a storm in a teacup. And the resignation of senior politicians in Iceland, for example. The fact that we're moving to a model OECD standardised disclosure agreement with lots of countries, including sovereign states which otherwise have never disclosed before, such as Switzerland, is a very significant development, and Panama should be seen in that wider context.
The EU referendum has dominated global news. What does it mean for the UK?
Clearly you don't want me to try and persuade you one way or the other, but rather reflect on Brexit and its implications on the UK financial service sector. I think in the short term, the uncertainty hasn't been very good for London. You can see that in particular in the real estate market, where international investors, both private and institutional, are slowing down on investing in London as they worry about the implications of the UK leaving Europe. For a smaller firm like us, we still work in the global environment in the financial service sector, so we have to be mindful about the fact that if we leave Europe, we're going to have to rely on a new set of regulation in order to operate, and that will be a risk for a small business like us. I think on a personal level, one should think about UK's role internationally and our role in Europe as being an emotional decision rather than necessarily on the pounds and pennies of whether we stay in or leave.
Well, it's clearly the most fundamental decision that my generation and those around me have to make in exercising our democratic right, because governments have a very difficult job in making the case on either side on the balance between pooling our sovereignty and having entry to the single market. Most of our clients are quite concerned about the prospect of leaving the European Union, and most of financial services are too, because of the inward investment that London enjoys. I think we'll see it play out over the remainder of the campaign, but most of the people I talk to are quite concerned to see it go the right way.